Well, good morning and happy Monday to each and every one of you, and welcome to Healing the Family. I'm so excited to be with you on this morning and to talk about what we're going to talk about today. But before we get started, I need you to do one thing for me. I want you to either like, subscribe, follow, and lastly, share. Do it in that order. Help me get the word out. I'm trying to grow my page, and you guys can help me do that by sharing this page with someone else as well and liking these videos so that they know that there are some good things happening here at Transformation Station. All right, guys, let's get started. All right, so today we're going to be talking about 5 tips to help you understand the family dynamic. Now, let me tell you something. This that we're talking about is talking about saving the family, right? And so I want to help us to do a deep look at family, and I want to give you some tips and some things to think about when you're dealing with your family. Listen, you don't choose your family. You do not choose those people. I mean, there's some people that you just absolutely love in your family, and there's those that you feel like, I want to drop you off a cliff and be at the bottom to save you. Yeah, all of us have those family members that's kind of annoying, and they are kind of, can be condescending, or you got the one that's just, I don't know how they stand up because of how much alcohol they've had, but there is a role. Everybody has a role that they play in the family. Okay. And so I want to talk about that. All right. So let's get into tip 1. All right. Tip number 1, realize that everybody has their own individual role. Okay. Nobody in your family is going to be the same, whether it's your spouse. You can't expect your spouse to be who you are. I get the shirt off my back and I did that. Okay. He's not you. You can't expect him to be who you are. It can even be with your family, your children. My children are all different. I understand that they have their own strengths and their own behaviors. So when I began to learn them as individuals and then love them as their individual, the tension and the chaos that could have been in my house wasn't there because I understood who I was talking to and who I was dealing with, and I was able to deal with them accordingly. So remember, everybody has their role. One is the caregiver, one is the giver, one is the one that takes care of everything. It's like my kids. The oldest one is the administrative, the middle one can build anything, and the last one, my baby, he can research anything. That's their strong points. So I know who they are and I deal with them as such. All right, tip number 2, understanding communication styles. Listen, some people are defensive, some people are argumentative, some people are supportive, some people are caring. Some people are really closed off, and you have to, go deep sea fishing in them to pull out what you need. But understand that if you got somebody that's a nervous communicator, bombarding them with why did you, you're not going to get anything out of them. Also, if they're argumentative and you run up there and you arguing, they're like, oh, this is meat for me, because they like to argue. So you just want to make sure that you understand who you're dealing with so that you can already be prepared to deal with who they are, whether they're argumentative, whether they're very defensive, or they're caring, or they're supporting, and they're very understanding, and they are able to communicate well. Remember, there are some people that will not be able to communicate well, and that's okay. But don't be defensive and attack them because they do not communicate the way that you do. And so you have to learn how people communicate and then love them in that way. Number 3, we have to acknowledge generational influence. Listen, everybody has a belief system and they're taught differently. Let's deal with the husband and wife, right? Listen, one of the things that we have a problem, my mother said getting married is very easy, but becoming one is not. And the reason is we don't think about each other's belief systems. We can have the same core values, but the way that we were taught, to communicate, the way that we were taught to do things can be very different. Our traditions can be different. It's like they may on their birthday eat pie for their birthdays, and you eat cake. But you can't get mad that they eat pie and then go into a fight mode, right? So you have to be able to acknowledge some of the things that they like and actually do some of the things that they like, because this is what's deep rooted in them. Now, don't be selfish and only think about yourself. Just because you don't do it that way does not mean that what they're doing isn't valid. Let me say that again. Just because it's not what you do does not mean that something's wrong with it or that it's invalid. It's just not what you do. and you have to make allowances and, accept other people's traditions and belief so that you don't isolate a person in a relationship and they don't want to have anything to do with you because they feel like you do not consider who they are and what they consider to be important. All right. So remember, everybody gets things that they've learned from their grandmother or their parents, and that influences how we do relationships. So I think even before you start getting married, you need to sit down and talk about your traditions and talk about how you handle things so that you won't have culture shock and go into an all-out Tasmanian devil moment when the tradition that they have is not yours, okay? Number 4, identifying rules that were unspoken and boundaries. Let me say this. When it comes to relationships, to stay out of conflict, it's going to be important to know the patterns of your person, understand their behaviors, and understand why they do what they do or respond the way they respond. Let me give you an example. You can have a person, let's deal with boundaries, right? They grew up in a family that he had 5 or 6 siblings. They were always going through all of his stuff. He didn't, to be mean, they put their hands on his food. And so he has a rule, that's my box of cheeses. Don't stick your hand down in my box of cheeses. I'll pour you some in a bowl, but I don't want anybody touching my food. It's understandable. It's a pattern. But why? Because of what was done to him. All right. He's going to be that way. You got to understand his unspoken rule and then stay in that boundary. If you understand someone's trauma, because that's usually what's caused it, and why there's an unspoken rule there, when you figure out that rule, you need to even ask this while y'all dating, is there anything that kind of just, plucks your nerve? Why? Because you want to see the pattern so that you're not caught off by surprise if you do something and they respond. All right. So remember, each of us have our own belief system that has unspoken rules, and we set boundaries, and it's important to find out what those are. All right. And tip number 5 is learn to see things through other people's eyes. Be empathetic and open-minded. Listen, when you come into a relationship, let's deal with relationships. Both of y'all come in with suitcases full of stuff. You didn't know you came in dragging suitcases, but you have stuff. And it's like, let's put it like this. Let's say that there's a woman that grew up in an abusive home. The moment you yell and you scream at her, or you say something kind of out of pocket and she flip out, it's because of what she went through. Now, is there healing that's necessary? Yes. Should they have gotten healed before they got into a relationship? Yes. But guess what? A lot of times when people are living in dysfunctional patterns, they don't even realize they've done something crazy. They don't even realize that they triggered and snapped off. And you sitting up there looking like, look at this here. Look, what is this here? Right? But you're looking at someone that's been injured, or you're looking at someone that had to learn how to deal with things on their own. And so we have to learn how to step out of ourselves, imagine if it was us, see things from that perspective. We're not saying that what they're doing is okay, but I can have empathy and say, you know what? I understand how you got here. Doesn't make what you did right, but I understand how you got here. And let's work on, trying to fix that. Have an open mind. Okay? Remember this. Always give people mercy, because you never know when you're going to need it. And there's nothing like needing mercy and can't find it because you didn't give it. All right. So I want you guys to think about that with your families. You're in your close family, your extended family. Give them grace. Learn to love everybody. Understand that everybody was taught a little different than everybody else. And so we may see things differently. Learn how to communicate with people. And remember, everybody's their own individual and has their own roles. All right. We are going to continue this on later. But here are the 5 tips, and I want you guys to take them. I want you to study them and apply them to your life, because that is one way that we can start healing our families, when we realize that we're not the only person in the relationship, and that other people have a right to feel the way they feel and be the way they be if they're going to be a part of our lives. All right. All right, guys. Till next time.